Have you ever wondered why the people who claim to be the most hurt often end up holding the most power? In a world where social media rewards pain with applause, where every heartbreak becomes a post, and every tear becomes a story, something subtle but dangerous is happening. The line between genuine suffering and emotional strategy is disappearing. Many men have already felt it. The slow confusion of caring too much for someone who uses her pain as a weapon, who turns her weakness into control, and her fragility into dominance. You try to fix her, comfort her, love her harder, and somehow you end up being the villain in her story. She cries, and the world believes her. You stay silent, and silence becomes your guilt. What looks like love becomes a quiet battlefield of emotions, where the one who plays the victim always wins. Socrates once said that people would rather appear good than be good, and that truth cuts through the modern world like never before. In relationships today, image has replaced intimacy. Validation matters more than connection. Victimhood has become a language of influence, one that twists affection into obligation. It is no longer about who loves deeper, but who suffers louder. And this is not just about women or men. It is about the way power has shifted in emotional exchanges. We live in an age where attention is the highest currency, and nothing earns it faster than a story of betrayal. But what if behind every performance of pain, there hides an unspoken will to control? What if the game is not about healing, but winning? This is not a war of genders. It is a mirror held up to human manipulation, and few dare to look into it. Everywhere you look, pain has become a performance. People film their heartbreak, post their breakdowns, and speak about betrayal as if the world owes them comfort. In conversations, on screens, even in private relationships, pain is no longer something to heal from, but something to use. The truth is, many have learned that suffering can be more persuasive than logic, and that emotion, when displayed the right way, can move people faster than truth ever could. You see this in relationships every day. A man speaks out about what went wrong, and somehow the story bends against him. She cries, and the world takes her side. Her pain becomes proof of innocence. His silence becomes evidence of guilt. It is not acting, not entirely. It is instinct. The instinct to win sympathy, to claim the moral ground by appearing wounded first. And in a time when being the victim means being right, many have learned to turn pain into power. But what no one admits is how this performance drains everyone involved. Men walk on eggshells, afraid to be misunderstood. Women lose themselves in roles they no longer know are real. Relationships become stages where everyone is performing safety instead of living truth. People have begun to measure love through how much they can hurt and still be forgiven. The more dramatic the pain, the more authentic it seems. But this is not authenticity. This is survival in a world that rewards appearances. The tragedy is that while everyone tries to win through emotion, no one feels safe enough to be honest. What started as a plea for understanding has turned into a quiet war for control. And the more pain becomes performance, the further we drift from what love was ever meant to be. It often begins in silence. A man feels the shift when affection starts to depend on guilt. What was once connection turns into a quiet exchange of emotional control. You can see it in daily life. A message ignored to create doubt. A cold response after honesty. A sudden distance that makes you chase reassurance. It is not random. Many people have discovered that the fastest way to gain power is not by confronting, but by withdrawing. The modern world has taught that control does not need to shout. It only needs to make the other person feel uncertain. A woman who understands this does not need to demand attention. She simply creates absence, and in that absence, she becomes the center of his thoughts. The game is subtle, but precise. Appear fragile, and you make the other carry the blame. Show pain, and you decide the narrative. In a world where emotions are currency, the one who looks hurt first sets the price. This silent reversal has made relationships feel like transactions. Many men now second-guess their every word, afraid that truth will be turned against them. Many women have learned that tears can end a conflict faster than reason. This is not always calculated. Often it is survival learned through experience, but the result is the same: power built through weakness. Society praises empathy, but rarely questions manipulation that hides beneath it. The one who appears soft gains protection, while the one who tries to stay calm becomes the villain. The irony is painful. What used to be love has turned into negotiation. People use emotion not to connect, but to control. And as both sides keep playing the same game, no one wins, because every move comes from fear, not understanding. Every story of pain begins with a memory that refuses to fade. Many women carry the weight of what they once lost, the betrayal that broke them, or the silence that made them feel invisible. These moments create a wound that becomes part of their identity. Over time, that pain stops being just a memory and turns into a language. It shapes how they love, how they argue, and how they see men. The problem is that the mind starts to replay the same scene with different people, expecting the same ending. When a new man enters her life, he becomes a character in a script she did not finish. He ends up paying for the mistakes of someone who left years ago. In her eyes, every disagreement confirms her fears, and every disappointment becomes proof that she was right about the world. She does not see that the echo she hears is not his voice, but the past repeating itself. Modern life has made this cycle stronger. People live too fast to heal, moving from one connection to another without ever pausing to understand what went wrong. Pain becomes a belief system. It says, "No one will ever understand me," and that belief becomes a shield. Many women start to wear that shield proudly, calling it independence, when in truth, it is defense. Men feel this energy without always knowing why. They sense that they are walking into a courtroom, not a relationship, where the verdict has already been written. The tragedy is that both sides lose. She keeps fighting ghosts, and he keeps trying to prove he is not one of them. And until the past is faced for what it really was, no present moment will ever feel safe enough to be real. We now live in a world where emotions are traded like goods. The louder the story, the more valuable it becomes. People speak about pain, not to heal, but to be seen, to gain sympathy, and to secure validation. What used to be private has turned into public currency. A breakup becomes a statement, a heartbreak becomes a platform, and tears become proof of truth. The moment someone shares their pain, they gain an audience, and with that audience comes power. The modern relationship has started to mirror this same economy. The one who appears more hurt controls the tone. The one who reacts less is labeled as cold or detached. This emotional market rewards those who display vulnerability, but punishes those who stay composed. Many men feel trapped by this system, knowing that logic no longer wins and that emotion always dictates the outcome. The conversation is no longer about what is fair, but about who can appear more wounded. This trade has changed the meaning of connection. People no longer seek understanding, but validation. Love is being measured through responses, reactions, and attention, rather than effort, consistency, or truth. Many have started to perform emotions they do not feel, only to protect the image that keeps them safe. A woman who learns that tears bring comfort may start using them to shape behavior, not from cruelty, but from habit. And a man, tired of always being the one to explain, begins to withdraw. Not because he does not care, but because he knows he cannot win a game that rewards the loudest pain. The danger is that no one sees it happening. What feels like honesty becomes strategy. What feels like empathy becomes control. And love, once sacred, becomes just another transaction in this emotional marketplace. The hardest truth to face is the one that reflects back from silence. Many people today are afraid to look at themselves without excuses. It is easier to blame than to question, easier to accuse than to reflect. In relationships, this becomes clear when one person turns every conflict into a story of how they were wronged. It is never about what they did, but about what was done to them. The moment you challenge that story, you become the villain. But the truth is that some people use pain to avoid accountability. They say they were betrayed, yet they never admit how they pushed someone away. They say they were abandoned, yet they forget how they made love conditional. The mirror does not lie, but it requires courage to look into it. Most would rather stay blind because awareness forces change, and change threatens control. Many men find themselves arguing against emotions that cannot be reasoned with because what they are facing is not logic, but defense. In today's world, everyone wants to appear right rather than be real. People read quotes about healing, but never question their own patterns. They speak of boundaries, but use them as walls. They say they want peace, but they only want comfort. This is why most relationships fail before they even begin, not because of lack of love, but because of lack of honesty. The mirror is avoided because it strips away illusion. An illusion is what keeps many people safe from truth. But there is no freedom in pretending. Until one is willing to ask, what part of this pain do I create? The cycle will continue. Real awareness begins the moment blame ends. That is the mirror's purpose, not to judge, but to reveal what we refuse to see. There is a strange comfort in being pitied. It softens judgment, silences questions, and brings protection without having to ask for it. Many have learned this without ever saying it out loud. In modern relationships, sympathy has become a quiet form of persuasion. When someone cries, apologizes, or tells a story of pain, they pull another person into their gravity. You stop thinking clearly because you start feeling responsible. You begin to comfort instead of question, and before you realize it, the balance of the relationship has shifted. It is no longer about truth. It is about managing emotions. Some women, often without even meaning to, learn that sadness brings more attention than honesty ever could. They start using it when they feel distance, fear, or guilt. It becomes a language of survival. When a man sees her cry, his instinct is to protect, not to doubt. She knows this, even if she never admits it. And over time, sympathy becomes her quiet weapon, one that disarms reason. The world today encourages this dynamic more than ever. Movies, shows, and even everyday conversations celebrate the one who hurts the most as the one who deserves the most. But there is a danger hidden in that reward. When someone builds their identity around pain, they lose the ability to love without using it. The relationship becomes a rescue mission instead of a partnership. Men start confusing guilt with care and compassion with surrender. It becomes exhausting because no matter how much comfort is given, it is never enough. The truth is that sympathy, when used to gain control, destroys connection. Real love does not need to beg for comfort. It grows in accountability, not manipulation. And until both sides understand this, every apology will only repeat the same cycle of dependence. People want power, but not the weight that comes with it. In relationships today, it has become easier to point at what someone did wrong than to ask what part we played in the story. Many women use pain as proof that they are innocent, and many men stay quiet because they know logic does not win against emotion. Responsibility has turned into a word that people avoid, even though it is the only thing that can set them free. When someone refuses to take responsibility, they keep the same wound open and call it fate. They repeat the same patterns and call it bad luck. You can see this everywhere. In couples who fight about the same things for years, in people who leave one relationship only to create the same problems in the next. They all share the same illusion that healing will come when someone else changes first. But nothing changes because no one faces the truth that some of their suffering is self-made. In today's reality, comfort has replaced accountability. People are told to protect their peace, but what they are really doing is avoiding self-reflection. Everyone wants to be right, but no one wants to be real. The moment someone takes responsibility, they lose the privilege of being the victim. That loss feels like defeat, but it is actually freedom. Responsibility means saying, I cannot control what others do, but I can control how I respond. That simple truth changes everything. It stops the endless blame, the emotional blackmail, and the cycle of silent punishment. Most people never reach that level of honesty because it requires letting go of pride. Yet without it, love turns into manipulation, and pain becomes identity. The shadow only fades when you finally face the light that creates it. There is a silent power in being the one who claims to be wronged. In many relationships today, guilt has replaced reason. The person who gets accused becomes the villain before the story is even understood. Many men know this feeling well. You try to explain your side, but your words only dig you deeper. You stay calm, and that calm is called coldness. You react, and that reaction is called aggression. The one who positions themselves as the victim no longer needs to prove anything because emotion wins before evidence does. Society has trained us to comfort those who cry, not to question their truth. That pattern gives enormous power to the one who can appear hurt first. It does not matter what actually happened. What matters is who plays the role of the innocent more convincingly. And once that role is set, the other person is forced to apologize for things they may not have even done. In today's world, this pattern plays out far beyond relationships. You can see it in workplaces, families, and public life. Accusation has become a tool to claim moral superiority. People use it to silence others, to avoid responsibility, to gain validation without effort. The more dramatic the accusation, the less people dare to question it. Many have realized that being offended is a form of control. It makes others walk carefully, speak carefully, and live carefully. The accused lose their voice, trying to defend themselves in a world that listens only to the loudest pain. But real strength does not come from accusation. It comes from clarity. Truth does not need defense. The problem is that we have forgotten how to separate honesty from emotion, and the one who cries the loudest has become the one who leads the story. Some people do not want peace because peace ends their control. In many relationships today, chaos is not an accident. It is a method. The arguments, the guilt, the emotional swings, they keep you guessing, they keep you attached, and they keep you proving your loyalty. When love becomes unpredictable, it creates addiction. You begin to crave the calm after the storm more than love itself. This is how emotional power works, by keeping the other person off balance. Many men stay in such situations because they mistake struggle for passion. They think that if it hurts this much, it must mean it is real. But it is not real. It is strategy. Chaos gives attention. Chaos gives control. Chaos gives importance. The person who causes it feels alive when they are at the center of it. They know that peace makes people drift apart, but conflict keeps them close. So they keep lighting small fires just to make sure no one forgets them. You can see this pattern everywhere in modern life. People pick fights not because they are angry, but because they fear being forgotten. They use emotional chaos the same way others use noise, to avoid silence. And silence is dangerous for them because it reveals the truth they do not want to face. In that stillness, they would have to admit that their control is built on fear, not love. But in our time, drama is currency. People post their pain, share their arguments, and turn their heartbreak into attention. Chaos sells, and calm gets ignored. Yet the reward is never real. It only keeps both people trapped in the same emotional loop, mistaking intensity for intimacy. True connection begins the moment someone chooses peace, even if it means losing control. Guilt has become one of the strongest currencies in modern relationships. It is not shouted, it is implied. You feel it when you say no, when you choose yourself, when you stop playing the savior. Many men live under silent guilt, without knowing where it started. It comes in words that sound soft, but cut deep. You have changed. You do not care like you used to. I guess I am the problem then. These lines are not about communication. They are about control. They make you prove love through sacrifice. The more you give, the more you owe. Guilt becomes the invisible chain that keeps people from walking away. It convinces you that peace is selfish and boundaries are cruelty. It is emotional debt, and like real debt, the balance is never cleared. The one who learns to use guilt never has to argue, because guilt speaks louder than truth. This game of guilt extends far beyond romance. It exists in families where parents remind children of everything done for them, in friendships where loyalty is measured by obedience, in workplaces where gratitude is used to silence unfairness. Our world rewards guilt because it keeps people compliant. You can see it in how easily people apologize for things they never did, or how they explain themselves just to be accepted. The modern mind is trained to seek moral safety, not truth. But guilt that is not earned is manipulation. It keeps you small, so someone else can feel large. Breaking free from it is not rebellion, it is clarity. The moment you stop reacting to guilt, you start to see who truly cared and who only cared when they could control you. Real love never demands your guilt to prove your loyalty. Every man reaches a point where he must decide whether to keep chasing what looks like love or start facing what love truly is. Many never make that choice because illusion feels safer. It gives comfort without commitment, warmth without risk, validation without effort. Yet, this illusion always demands more than it gives. It drains energy, time, and purpose until a man starts losing himself, trying to please someone who only loves him when he is useful. In today's world, where attention is mistaken for affection, it has become easy to confuse desire with devotion. People treat love like performance, always trying to prove their worth to someone who never planned to see it. When a man finally steps back and sees the pattern, it hurts, but it also frees him. He starts realizing that love built on guilt, chaos, and manipulation was never love at all. It was control wrapped in comfort. The exit from illusion is not loud. It is quiet. It is the moment a man stops explaining himself and starts respecting himself. He no longer needs to win arguments or seek validation from someone who only understands power. He starts protecting his peace like he once protected her feelings. This shift changes everything, because real strength is not found in domination or reaction. It is found in restraint. The world will tell him he is cold, detached, or heartless, but he knows he has simply learned not to burn for those who enjoy watching him fall apart. In a time where manipulation hides behind tenderness, walking away is not weakness, it is clarity. And maybe the hardest question every man must ask himself is this: if she truly loved you, why did she need to break you to prove it?